Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and it's time to rank the albums of legendary metalcore progressive metal band Protest the Hero, and we're gonna do it tier list style. But before I do that, if you like to stay up to date with the best and brightest metal albums and bands from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. I upload new content every single week. Alright, and we're going to start right from the beginning with Kezia, which I recently discovered I've been saying wrong for all of these years, which is funny because I've been listening to this album basically since it came out. A friend in college got me into them. 2005, was just a freshman. Just a little baby boy, and this is a fantastic album. So many hits on here, and for a long time it was kind of like I was a purist and was like, Kezia is just the way to go. It's the only one. It's the only one that matters. You got that great opening with Stars Over Bethlehem. I'm going to try to share some clips here without getting copyright snagged, but just those guitars, just so many, those little chuggy start-stop riffs, and I was just blown away too by the vocals. Like, I'd not really heard a band that sounded like this at this point. I was very much deep in metalcore at this point, and was really only listening to bands that were like at least 75% harsh vocals. Of course, I was listening to things like As I Lay Dying too, where they've got the singing in there, but for the most part, like, if you didn't have harsh vocals, I wasn't really into you. And there's some harsh vocals on this album, but they're almost like an afterthought. Of course, Heretics and Killers is like the classic. The music video caught my attention too with this one. Man, so many just not only great songs, but just overflowing with amazing guitar hooks and vocal hooks too. Sing-along moments. Let's see if I can, like, these little acoustic transitions too. Again, I'm going to try to be careful not to get claimed, as I could really, like, that song alone has so many different crazy hooks in it. Got Divinity Within, got Blindfolds Aside. I recently used their music video for a very late Bird Box Challenge meme. Better late than never was one of the comments, but yeah, and then Turn Soonest to the Sea is a nice deeper cut too. But in any case, fantastic album. And really, this is a band that has no bad albums, so you're not going to see much like drop into these lower tiers. I struggle a little bit because I kind of almost want to put it S tier, but I think just because of what I want to talk about later, I'm going to put it at A tier for now, because I kind of want to reserve S tier for like my all-time favorite. But as far as like the rankings go, it is way up there. But let's move on to Fortress, which was an album that I oddly resisted for a very long time. I was so high coming off of Kezia. See, that's how I used to pronounce it. It was Kezia. And when this came out, for some reason, it just did not connect with me. Like, I felt like they made shifts that I was not a fan of particularly. And it's odd, because listening to it now, like, I love this album. It's of course fantastic. I know a lot of people will rank this as their top Protest the Hero album, and then they even have later lyrics in other albums talking about how they couldn't even like move away from this album because that's just, everybody wanted them to be that concept sort of progressive metalcore band, and they wanted to do other things. But in any case, I found this later in like a bargain bin. I could even, let me see if I can find my CDs. Yeah, here we go. Here's my Kezia copy. Very old, had that for a while. And then, yeah, I found this in a bargain bin, and you can kind of see it maybe in the light. But the booklet's all wrinkled up because it has, like, water damage. And I kind of saw it and was like, hey, this album deserves a little bit more love, and maybe it's the perfect time to give it another shot. So I plugged it in and was like, holy crap, what have I been missing out on? You know, Blood Meat, another great opener. Every album is just like, they always know how to kick things off. So good. Whole first half of the album, as you can see, like, I'm just totally in love with. I'm in love with the whole album, really. I 5-starred everything on here. But I think the first half in particular really speaks to me. But just very consistent, more great riffs. I'm not sure I love it as much as Kezia, just because it's partially just because I spent so much time with it, and I came to this later, so it's had less time to sort of sink in. But listen to those riffs, like, undeniable. Sequoia Throne, classic. More those looping kind of guitar riffs there, the hammer-ons and pull-offs. More great vocals. But they're a cool band too, because it's like every album has just gotten better, I think, in my opinion. There's been some dips, and I'll get into that. Oh, I love this part too. This very kind of Between the Buried and Me section, which was another band I was huge into at this time. Probably even more so than Protest the Hero. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think this is another at least A-tier album. I know a lot of people would put it S-tier, but again, I want to reserve that spot for the truly, like, my pick of the litter. And I promise you, we'll get there. So stick with me. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, so let's move on to our next album. So we had Fortress in 2008, and then we had Scurrilous in 2011, so a bit of a gap there, but I'll say quality over quantity. I think that's been this band's name of the game for a while. Now, Scurrilous, speaking of dips, this is probably close to my least favorite album. It was my least favorite album from them for a long time, but like I said, they have no bad albums. Like, my least favorite from this band is still, like, leaps and bounds above most albums from most bands, I would say. But it's got some really incredible songs that are among my favorite. Like, I love C'est La Vie. It's probably one of my favorite songs from them. I love the tongue-in-cheek lyrics. I love the whole thing about this person killed themselves in the train, the path of the train. They jumped into it, and all anyone can talk about is how their train was 15 minutes late. And then this whole section here, just dizzying hooks, and so good. Hair Trigger, also an excellent song. It's like there's some of the best songs of their career, especially at this point on this album. But as far as like its consistency, Tandem's great. There's this whole section kind of in the middle that they're good, but I feel like there's something just like missing, at least for me, and I just don't connect as deeply to them. And so that's where this album kind of gets hurt a little bit, is that whereas those first two albums, pretty much start to finish, I love them. This one, I end up kind of skipping a lot of tracks, and even recently, like, I kind of threw them all in a playlist and shuffled them. And these were the songs that I tended to kind of not just be jamming out to as much. But Sex Tapes, this song is forever one of my favorite Protest the Hero songs. So great closer there. So credit where it's due, obviously, for the great stuff on here. This song is just the penultimate song to make you laugh and bang your head at the same time. It's so heavy, so well written. The riffs are fantastic. The vocal hooks and sing-along capabilities here are just endless. So good. But anyways, I don't want to gush on too long about each of these. I'm going to put this at B tier. And so again, like, don't get upset that I'm not as big a fan of this, because it's still a B, and that's still like above average. It's well above average. All right, let's go to Volition. And Volition, we didn't have as big a gap here. We had 2013. This was a big crowd-funded effort, which was kind of cool because crowdfunding wasn't necessarily like a big thing yet. And Jesus Christ, like, as you can see, I freaking love this album. I think it's their best album. I know there's like a pocket of people that agree with me, but it seems to be like an unpopular choice. I see a lot of people ranking this album relatively low, and I just don't get it, because every song on here is a banger. Absolutely every song. The riffs are the best they've ever done. The production is as strong as it's ever been, I think. Some people argue that. But just the clarity of songs like Clarity, and just how they're written. And I think this is the most passionate the vocals have ever been. Like, there's just this sense of, like, when we get to just the way he sings that, let it go, like, it's coming straight from the heart this entire time. Not that it wasn't before, but there's just something special about these songs. And they had great music videos for a lot of these too. Some of them you can't find anymore for some reason. They've been like scrubbed from YouTube for whatever reason. Like they had one with puppets I can't find anymore, and then there was the one with like the Star Trek and Star Wars people fighting each other. I love this intro too. And then just boom! Like that is just an unstoppable riff. Great choruses. Yellow Teeth is another one of my favorites. Just non-stop. Just everything about this. I think I love this part too. Plato's is one of my all-time favorite songs from theirs too. Like just such passionate vocals. Who's forgiven, all is forgotten. Like that vocal line is just so catchy. And again, like dark content, but making it just like this fun sing-along. And then you get that amazing transition with the crazy techie guitars, and then the outro with this like soaring vocal parts, and the guitars just pick up. It's so epic. And then you've got the female backup vocals here with the acoustic section. It's just gorgeous. My all-time favorite song though from Protest the Heroes, Mist. I know Sex Tapes is like probably top 3, but Mist is number 1. It's just stunning. Like it's the ultimate song where if I'm in a bad mood, it doesn't matter how bad my day is, and I hear this song, I will start singing along to it, and it will put me in a better mood. Underbite, fun song. I love the kind of just joking about bands that don't really give a crap but just fake it. I have a lot of thoughts on bands like that, which is why I respect bands that maybe take a direction that I don't like but fits for them. Sky's beautiful ending to just this whole thing. It's almost like a karaoke album for me. Like I will sit and sing every single song, and I love it. It's S tier. It's their best album, if you ask me. Gotta rank that one at the top. But let's push forward. So coming off of that, I had really high hopes, a lot of hype going into Pacific Myth in 2016. I'm still a big, as you can see, physical collector of these albums. So even though I thought that their whole Bandcamp model that they were doing even though I thought that their whole Bandcamp model they were doing where it was a song a month until the full thing was out was cool, and I wanted to jump out on that, I wanted the CD. So I waited to kind of hear everything and pick that up. And this is a really great kind of EP. It's almost a full length, really. I mean, it's the difference between a EP and an LP is like just it's tomato at this point. Like you'll have an EP that's longer than another band's LP. It's all relative. This thing's 36 minutes long, so we can call it part of the full discography. And it's got some really solid songs on it. Title's a great opener. Great vocal parts. There's something a little bit missing on this one too, I would say. There are certain moments that really capture me. I think Cold Water is another one too, where there are certain sections that just really catch me up. It's really well written. There's that part where it's like, hey, there you go. Yeah, that guitar part there. Like that, yeah, this is one of my favorite parts on the album, with that guitar part. Yeah, and then this part here. It's kind of almost like old school thrashy, like heavy metal riff that they throw in here. Dun, dun, dun. Great stuff. And then Caravan is my favorite song on the album because it just builds into this soaring epic piece, kind of like Mist in a way. And it like takes its time getting there, but it goes through so many different movements. Here we go. Song Rose. Another great sing-along part. The passion in those vocals is great. And then, yeah, later you've got this big symphonic flourish at the end, which I thought was really cool. But the only thing that holds this back the most, I feel like, is the production. Like, something about the production just drops a few pegs from Volition. I feel like it's just kind of kneecapped by something, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I'd normally say it's too glossy and pristine, but it's not even that, because Volition's pretty glossy. maybe somebody in the comments who knows more about mixing and production can tell me kind of why this album sounds different to me. But yeah, I feel like it's also, it feels more compressed. It doesn't feel as like open. Like even when you get to that big symphonic section, it feels very restrained. It doesn't feel like it's like exploding out all around you like it should. And so that's something that kind of holds it back. Also, I just, of course, haven't had as many years listening to this one as these other ones, but it's one of the ones I'm less likely to put this one on than most of the other albums, I would say. Maybe that'll shift in the future, but I put it at B, right around same tier as Scurrilous, and I feel pretty good about that. But let's move on to their last album. And by the way, I did do a full-length review video of Palimpsest, so you should, not wrong one, I think it's up here. Check that link out right there. This is a fantastic album. So much hype around this too. Like, it's so rare that a band can live up to that hype when people have been waiting for so long. But this 2020 album blew me away. I had mixed feelings about it the first listen, but it is one that it was definitely a grower. Like every subsequent listen, even today, as I throw it on again, I notice new things. I love different things more, and this is a contender. Like, it's creeping up on Volition. I don't think I'll ever like it as much as Volition, but just again, a return to these incredible songs. Just the riffing's great. The vocals aren't quite as strong, and I can't fault them too much just because I know all the stuff that happened with the vocal cord damage and everything and having to recover from that. So, but still, like, even so, like, the fact that that happened and then he still has amazing parts like that on this album. Oh, and I love the more sing-along moments here. It's a different place that I cannot deny. I love that shit. So good. And then that riff that comes after, and this whole transition, yeah, from the sky, just a gorgeous song. It's a great single. This is what started to get me really hype about this album. More symphonic elements. I love the keys and the strings and stuff that they brought into it. I was really happy to see more of that because Caravan kind of got me pumped for, like, ooh, what would a really symphonic, keyboard-driven Protest the Hero sound like? And I think we got a lot of that on this album. All Hands, one of my favorites. Another, like, just kind of like miss the ultimate, like, if you're in a bad mood, you put this on and it's impossible not to just fall in love with it. It's got some, like, Coheed vibes to it in a way too, in that they're talking about this really horrible, you know, molasses incident that happened that, you know, injured and killed a whole bunch of people and destroyed, like, a whole bunch of businesses. The Great Molasses Flood, if you look it up. Each one of these songs, by the way, is encapsulating some, like, historical moments. But yeah, anyways, they're talking about this horrible incident, but it's like the poppiest, happiest song to listen to. Very fun. Fireside, great track. Love that, like, rapid vocal delivery. Just running out of breath. Another great, yeah, this whole section here, more sing-along. Reverie. I love that riff. Another kind of, like, thrashy, old-school heavy metal inspired riff there. That's very, like, 80s, something I'd expect to hear from, like, even Judas Priest or Iron Maiden back in the day. Little Snakes. I could talk all day about just how good this album is. And Gardenias, too, was another early standout for me. There's just a lot of beautiful stuff on here. A lot of amazing guitar work on this. Like, the guitar is just... I've always been... It's always been... I can't even say that, though. Like, I want to say that this band has always been about the guitar for me, but I can't just say that because it's the vocals, too. It's really the whole package, and it all comes together on here. And, yeah, I'm considering putting it S tier. Like, I'd planned out putting it at A tier, but I think in a very short amount of time, I gotta give it credit for just living up to the hype, because that's a big thing in and of itself. Just being very strong, very consistent, having no bad songs, no filler. And yeah, the fact that I'm thinking that highly of it and I'm listening to it about as much as I listen to Volition, even though I've been listening to Volition for like 7 years, and I've only been listening to Palimpsest for what, a month or two at this point, and it's up there. So yeah, I kind of want to put it at S. But let me know down in the comments if you are a longtime fan. What's your favorite album? What are your rankings? What tiers would you put these albums at? Where did I get it wrong? Where did I get it right? Let's have a discussion. That's always fun. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.